بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Let's begin with our dua right away, and then we have some other matters to discuss. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. تحصنت بذي العزة واعتصمت برب الملكوت وتوكلت على الحي الذي لا يموت. اللهم اصرف عنا الوباء بلطفك يا لطيف إنك على كل شيء قدير. تحصنت بذي العزة واعتصمت برب الملكوت وتوكلت على الحي الذي لا يموت. اللهم اصرف عنا الوباء بلطفك يا لطيف إنك على كل شيء قدير. تحصنت بذي العزة واعتصمت برب الملكوت وتوكلت على الحي الذي لا يموت. اللهم اصرف عنا الوباء بلطفك يا لطيف إنك على كل شيء قدير. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Welcome everybody to community update number 15, and this situation has been prolonged yesterday by announcement from the federal government, from the president, that we're going meetingless, no more meetings, or we can continue to be not meeting, not allowing any meetings until April 30th. Okay, so that was the latest news. If you haven't heard it, that was the latest news, that we can't meet until April the 30th. So that, what does that mean for us? Well, that means something very obvious. That means the first week of Ramadan will be taking place in our homes. Okay, so, and don't think we're going to leave you without anything. We will have a plan. We do have a plan, but I'm not going to say it. I'm going to leave you in suspense. We do have a plan. It includes something like this, and includes other things as well. Okay, it's going to be it's going to be a good plan. It's going to be something unique. It's going to be something you've never done before. So I mean, if when Allah Ta'ala gives you something, if you know what they say when life gives you lemons or whatever, all right, make lemonade. All right, so Allah Ta'ala is giving us a situation. Maybe this situation will open up and uncover for us something we've never done before, like a lot of individual and private ibadah. Okay, a different type of struggle, and it will be a different type of struggle. There's nothing harder, really, than fasting at home, right? Fasting at home and not being able to go. But I do recommend everyone to take long walks. Today I walked until my feet were like gonna fall off. Walk a little bit, run a little bit, 8.5 miles one day, 6 miles the other, because otherwise you can't sleep. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing this, but you go to sleep at a decent time, and all of a sudden you can't sleep. Right? Because your body's not tired enough. Right? So you gotta exhaust your body, make yourself tired. You gotta keep up some simple habits that we said that are really game changers, namely cleaning up the house multiple times a day, and the food situation. That's why you got to exercise too. It's another reason to exercise. Someone showed me something. They said, Wallahi, I think I just heard my refrigerator say, what do you want now? Right? I mean, the refrigerator's talking to people because of how much we're eating. All right. So you got to just keep an eye out for these little habits that could really weigh us down. And we're going to be doing something, everyone's complaining about eating, but in a few weeks, we're going to be fasting. And if you do have to do work from your home in the morning, you can't afford to stay up all night, but it's going to be something very unique. And let's think of a way we're going to find a way to make it better. Something that is never going to be better than Ramadan with the people in the masjid, but it's going to be something that we've never done before, right? And we're going to be able to do something that we've never done before. So with that, another thing that I'm noticing, a lot of people are saying the same thing. They're saying one thing that's noticeably improving is their salah. Their salah at home. Number one, there's hardly any distractions. Number two, they're praying jama'ah with their families. And salat al-jama'ah is a sunnah. It's sunnah to pray jama'ah with your family. Either way, right? Whether it's in the masjid, praying jama'ah in the masjid is a sunnah. Praying at home with your family is also a sunnah. So this is a big sunnah that a lot of people are now being able to do. And if one thing that you should be able to do is Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and maybe Isha if they're still awake, then that to pray these in jama'ah and to say the tasbih together and to do your sunnahs together, all of that, it's a big ni'mah and it's a big blessing to have. And I think that's something that on a regular basis we never do. Like Dhuhr is prayed, everyone's at work. Asr, everyone's praying it, whenever they can sneak it in. Maghrib, maybe. Isha, maybe there's something going on. So we hardly ever get a chance to do a proper salah jama'ah in the house. And here you do. Here we have the chance. Right here we got the ability to do this, and it's something that we should take advantage of. And there's a saying, I know it's pretty corny, but the Christians have the saying, which is a good saying. They say, the family that prays together stays together. Right? It's very corny, full of high fructose corn syrup, but it's true. It really is true. A family that, imagine what other civilization and in this world where family bonds are totally being destroyed. All right, and they've even trained us that the concept of family is a corny, tacky concept, right? But when you realize the quality of life with and without family is no doubt, it's clearly a trick of shaitan to make us think that this is something that is lame or something like that. You look at all the sitcoms and there are no families, okay? All the movies, right? Families always looked at as a lame thing. I think that's one of the tricks of Iblis, is to make you think that it's something bad. Whereas in fact, if you look at quality of life, with and without, there's no contest, right? There's really no contest. Career is lucrative up to a point. Up to you start hitting 40 and 50. It's not lucrative anymore to be very wealthy, have a great career, and alone in a nice apartment in New York or Manhattan or something like that. And you're all alone, right? Or Los Angeles or something. And they're just looking at four walls when you come home at night. These people are depressed, all right? These people are miserable. So alhamdulillah, Allah's given us this ni'mah of salah is a way to keep family together. If you're meeting 3-4 times a day, even for this small, period of time, 4 or 5 minutes, 10 minutes maximum, right? It makes a world of difference. So this is the glass half full. The glass half full is that we're able to do these things together. Now we have other orders of business. The family of Rahil, Sarwats, and their parents, they need our dua. So they're a husband, wife, and mom and dad, all right? All four are sick with coronavirus. So we ask Allah Ta'ala, لِيُعَجِّلْ بِالشِّفَاء, may Allah Ta'ala give them a speedy shifa. And this is something, it's known, everyone in the community is aware of it, it's public knowledge that they are sick and they need your dua big time. They need your dua. We also, one of our friends here who used to always show up, let's see if he has shown up yet. He hasn't shown up yet. Maliki Click. He was very sick, but alhamdulillah didn't have coronavirus. He was sick, he was hospitalized even, but didn't have coronavirus. We have some doctors in our community that are literally almost 24/7 in the hospital now. And all the, a lot of the medical fields, it doesn't matter what field you're in, you're becoming an internist, right? And working on these patients. And some of them are telling me like literally 24/7. They're just go home, shower, sleep real quick, back at the hospital because there's such a shortage. So this stuff is real. And we're now looking at April 30th as the next deadline. Again, we will have for you something, a plan. We do have a plan, just not announcing it yet, for the month of Ramadan. And speaking of having a little bit more, we do have something more for you today. Something that you've missed for a while, and that is the voice of Qari Zahid, who will be joining us today with some Naats, not through the phone, so you don't have to worry about that, but right when we finish today, inshallah, we'll go to his, and he did an amazing Naat. And Naat is the Arabic word for description, okay? It's description. And you either love it or hate it, and I never listened to Naat. Okay, whenever the gatherings got into Naat, there's two things happen. Firstly, I don't understand anything. Secondly, one more, when they say one more, that one more is going to continue going for like 2 hours. And so I would sit there, my feet getting numb, just not wanting to disrespect the gathering. With Naat, there was a famous boxer who was, when he was down and out, he said, no mas, no mas, right? Anyone who's maybe from the 80s knows this story. It's a boxer and he was in a fight and he didn't want to fight. So he had no mas, which means no more, no more. Right? So my saying was no Naats, khalas. They just go on. However, Qari Zahid, he's really converted me. He's the only one I listen to, by the way. He is so, mashallah, good that just make sure you listen to the end of this community update because, mashallah, he did an amazing job. Now today, I want to discuss a great Sahabi, amazing Sahabi. His name is Sayyid ibn Amir. Now, Sayyid ibn Amir was a later Muslim. He came, not later, he's a Sahabi, but he came in later. He came in a little bit later. He became Muslim after the Battle of Khaybar. So he's not a Muhajir. He's from the, he's not from those who became Muslim in Mecca, nor those early Ansar of Medina. He came later, and he wanted to make up the time, so he became a devout and ardent follower of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he became so devoted that his path was the path of az-zuhad. And we said there are different paths among the companions. Some companions were zuhad. Okay, zuhad are those who literally, they go without any dunya. They don't care for dunya. Okay, completely devoted. Amongst them was Sayyidina Uthman ibn Mad'un and Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. Okay. Of course, the Egyptians know Amr ibn al-As. He's the one who took the Sahaba to Egypt and brought Islam into Egypt. Well, his son, Abdullah, was a Zahid. I mean, these were serious Zuhad. The type of Zuhad, like they would have a frock, a bowl, maybe another frock for when they're washing the first frock. And they would live in small homes, okay? And they would just do enough work to buy food. So Sayyid ibn Amir was one of these men. Now he gets onto the radar at the time of Sayyidina Umar. Okay, on the time of Sayyidina Umar. And it's an amazing story what happens. Homs, at this time, some people pronounce it Hims, Homs. I think the Shawam pronounce it Hims. Okay, so Sayyid ibn Amir, he comes onto the scene after the Muslims conquer the city of Hims. And in this time, the city of Hims was considered to be, they had two qualities for it. Number one, it was one of the wealthiest cities. It was considered like the jewel of Asham. All right, the Sham is that area which is Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and Philistine. All of that area is known as Asham. So it's considered the jewel of Asham, Hims. So Damascus, of course, was the capital, and Hims was one of the big cities. So Sayyidina Umar was contemplating, who should he put in charge of Hims? So someone said to him, they're very worldly people, okay? They're very worldly. They're all into business, okay? Maybe they're like, you can say like New Yorkers, right? They're just business, okay? So put someone who's also good at business that they can respect. So Sayyidina Umar said, it makes sense. What else? He thought of the positives and negatives of this. And he thought there's a big negative to that, okay? And he ends up putting someone who is the exact opposite, Sayyid ibn Amir, who was a complete Zahid. They said, oh, Amir al-Mu'mineen, they will never respect him. They will never respect him. He's not one of them. Sayyidina Umar said, look, if I put in a businessman, they'll respect him because he's a businessman. But their opportunities of business are so open for him, he could get tempted. That's number one. Number two, if they respect him for his business, then he's going to have to keep up. He's going to have to stay better than them, right? Or at least keep up with them. So let's bring in someone far from the polar opposite spectrum who has zero interest in this business, okay? And will be able to judge between them, not according to who's successful and who's not, but simply by justice and taqwa. Because if you put in another businessman, they all know each other. Business people, they know of one another, they respect one another, they treat each other, all right, based upon who's good at whatnot. So he said, let's bring someone completely different, completely outside the box. So he brought in Sayyid ibn Amir. Now he said, find me Sayyid. They found him Sayyid, and lo and behold, what had just happened? He had just gotten married. Yeah, Sayyid ibn Amir had just gotten married. And he married a beautiful young lady who was famous because she had the most beautiful eyes. Okay. And he told her, Amir al-Mu'mineen Umar ibn Khattab has appointed me to be the Amir of Hims, but I turned him down. She said, why'd you turn him down? He said, I turned him down. This is a big fitna. So he went to report to Umar, and he said, I turned it down. Sayyidina Umar said, how do you turn it down? He said, no, it's a fitna for my deen, and I don't want to have any fitan, so I turn it down. Umar became upset. He said, every time I give one of you, I appoint one of you as a job, all right, with a job, you say, no, because of my taqwa. Well, didn't you all give me the khilafah? What about my taqwa and my deen? Right? You all put the burden of khilafah on me and made me the khalifa, but none of you want to help me. Every time I give someone a job, he says, my taqwa and my deen. Right? What about my taqwa and deen? Who's going to help me in this? So Sayyid ibn Amir, he realized this makes total sense. I mean, we did put the whole burden of ruling on Umar, and now every time he asks for help, we say, no, we don't want to help out. So Sayyid, he accepted. He said, okay. He went off. He started preparing himself. He said, prepare yourself and leave tomorrow. And of course, these were Zuhad. They didn't have much. He could prepare everything he owns in one day. And then Umar sent to him with a bag of gold. Big bag of gold. And he said to him, this should suffice you, that you could deal with this and trade in it and make your money. So a big bag of gold shows up at the door, and it's making noise, right? And back in the day, subhanAllah, money it had an image to it, right? And an image and a sound and a color to it. Today, I mean, what is it? It's sometimes you don't even see it. It's bank transfers or pieces of paper that we've learned to value. But imagine that bright gold coins clinging in a bag, and the man puts the bag and leaves. And Sayyid ibn Amir looks at it. His wife comes, wow, look at this. Never seen anything like this before. And he looks at it, coins and coins of gold. And his wife starts getting very excited. Remember, she's just a young bride. So she said, I can't wait. Once we get to Hims, we're going to see what kind of curtains we're going to put up, what kind of cushions we're going to have. And Sayyid is thinking to himself, I don't think this is the right way to do things, because we're going for a responsibility. This is not a vacation, and this is not something else. But she was young, so he was having patience. Once he got there, she said, I want to put up this curtain, I want to get this cushion, I want to get this, that, or the other. And he said, I have a better idea. She said, what is it? He said, if you use money that you have, once you spend it, you never get it back. But we could do something which is called investing it. Invest it means I'll give it to a businessman, okay, and that businessman will go use the money to make trades, and our money will keep increasing. Okay? And she said, that's a great idea. So he did it. So he said, we will invest it. And the money's invested. And every once in a while, she says to him, how's the business? How's the investment? And he says, it's growing. And she said, what if he loses everything? He said, I have a guarantee from him that he won't lose it. All right, and if it's lost, we're going to get it back. So every once in a while, she keeps asking him, how's it going? And then one time, his cousin was visiting. And his cousin, she asked him, how's the investment coming? And she says, it's doing great. And his cousin breaks a little smile. Okay, and then she sees the cousin smiling. And she says, what is it? Something's up here. Something's not normal about this. What's going on? So he had to break the news to her. He said, the investor is Allah himself. And the investment was to give it to the poor. And Allah's guaranteed us that what we'll get in return is far superior to what we invested. So he traded with Allah Ta'ala. And she became upset. Now remember, she's young, right? She's not someone who came up in Islam in Mecca. Okay? She's not someone who's been through the battles the way other Sahaba have been. She's not someone who's lived a long life. Okay? She was a young lady. But she also had enough taqwa to handle what was being said. So she was upset. And she started to try to change his mind. And she tried to be, large-eyed and sad, and had sadness, and her eyes started to tear up. And he thought to himself, maybe I'm pushing this girl too hard, right? And he was about to weaken. But a memory came across his mind of all his friends who died, be it in battle or died a natural death. And he remembered them all, and by that memory, he was able to come to his senses because he remembered death. And the great neutralizer of shahawat. If shahawat, which are desires, passionate desires of the dunya, are clouding your mind, okay, then the solution is remembrance of death. Dhikr al-maut. Dhikr al-maut is the solution to anyone who's in a situation where I'm being tempted by the dunya and I just can't resist something, right? So it's dhikr al-maut. Dhikr al-maut. So he starts talking about his passed away friends, his friends that died, and he starts mentioning them. How short was their life? What did they take with them, right? Where are they now? And his resolve strengthens, and he tells his wife this is the path he's taken, and that he wants her to join him on this path of zuhud. All right. So what does she do? She has the option. I don't like this living. I'm going to leave. But no, she was a woman. Even though she was young, she grew up quickly because her husband led her on the right path, and she accepted the right path, even though it was difficult. So she accepted it, and she realized she had married a man who was an ascetic, who wanted a pious way of life, and she accepted it. And she started to live exactly like he did. Okay. And this is, I mean, sometimes you have family members where you don't want to push a little bit. You get nervous, but how do you know that they're not going to accept it? Right? You're never going to know unless you try. So people should try. People shouldn't assume the worst of others. We sort of have a su'adhan. Like, I don't think that they're going to be strong enough to handle this. How do you know that? Have you tried? Right? So what do you think? What are you saying about yourself that's different from them? If you handle it, why can't they handle it? Are you something special? Right? Are you created any different? You're a human being of flesh and bones, just like everyone else. Right? So if you can handle something of sacrifice for Allah, and you could do something for akhirah and afterlife, why can't anyone else? You're no different than the people, right? Than everyone else. So he did. He tried. He convinced her, and they continued on living their life in Hims. Now there was a second problem with Hims. Okay, is that it was also known as the second Kufa. Now Kufa was a city in Iraq that housed the Sahaba and the Tabi'een's army. All right, the army in Iraq. Now, if you look at a map, okay, anyone who studies Seerah is going to look at a map. So I want the kids here, the youth who are listening, to open up a map, and you'll see where Mecca and Medina is, and you'll see that you take a straight shot north, you pass by Asham, and then you go up into Iraq. And then you're going to see a river. The Tigris and the Euphrates River will join into one river, okay? And behind that river is what the Arabs called Persia. In front of the river, they called it Iraq. Okay? So between the river and Sham is what they call Iraq. And in Iraq, the Muslims had over 30,000 soldiers. Okay? There. Because that's where they were stationed to fight the Persians. So what did the Sayyidina Umar said? Sayyidina Umar came up with an idea. And he said, let's make a city there. Let's make what's called a garrison city. A garrison city is a city that is for the military. Okay? And then a whole city develops, because once you have that many people, they're going to need food, they're going to need clothes, they're going to need weapons, they're going to need everything, water, they're going to need home builders. So a whole city developed from the military. So this is called a garrison town. Now, he sent two people. He said Salman al-Farisi, and you all know Salman al-Farisi was the Persian, and he sent Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was the governor of the armies of the north. Okay, so he sent them. He said, go find us an area where we can build a city. They said, what kind of area? He said an area that is most similar to our climate. Okay, desert. So they found a flat desert sandy area. Right, and Kufa, it comes from the Arabic word for being flat, a flat area, a flat sandy area. So that's where they built the city of Kufa. Now, all these soldiers, they thought, well, I'm going to go fight, I'm going to serve my time in the army, and I'm going to go back to Medina, Well, they got another thing coming. They're staying there, okay? And a lot of them didn't like that they had to move. And a lot of them, and these aren't Sahaba now, this is the next generation, okay? So the people of Kufa, now the merchants and everyone else, the people of Kufa, they proved themselves to become one of the rowdiest, one of the biggest whiners. They're whiners, they're rowdy, they give Saad trouble, they give Omar trouble, okay? They give Sayyidina Umar so much trouble, okay, that he says, I pray one day that one of the children of Quraysh grow up and teach you all a lesson, okay? And who was that? Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, okay? So when you hear the word Kufa, you have to know that there's a lot of baggage there. Kufa is a place where the people were whiners, they were always complaining, and they were people of trouble. Okay. Now Hims was known as the second Kufa because there they also were whiners and complainers, constantly complaining about their rulers, never giving him any peace. So it's just a matter of time that the people of Kufa file a complaint against Sayyid ibn Amir. Okay. So a letter comes down, and some people come down, and they sent a complaint about Sayyid ibn Amir to Umar. So Umar decides, and this is something that Sayyidina Umar used to do once a year, he would go travel around and go visit the cities and check up on how things were going. Okay, so he gets to Hims, and the people, he went into the main masjid, and the people surrounded him, and he said, what do you all say of your governor, Sayyid? Are you pleased with your governor? Because in Islam, governance is not a dictatorship. You can't just rule people the way you want and that's it. The people need to be happy too. Like if you run a household, okay, the head of household, he all the responsibility in the sight of Allah is on his back. Okay? If salah is not established, Allah doesn't go ask anyone else. He asks the man of the house. If certain things aren't established in the house, all right, that Allah requires, he asks who? He asks the man of the house. So that man, he makes those decisions. However, the people have to be happy too, right? If the people are unhappy, nothing's going to work. They're going to rebel against you. So he wants to make sure that the people are happy too, okay? So they start complaining. And he asks them, openly state your complaints without fear. Like, don't be afraid that you're going to be in trouble with me. Of course, he said Umar, and everyone's always scared of him. But he said, speak. No one's going to be in trouble for what you speak about. This is the only way to get anyone to talk. So this is an important lesson for anyone who rules, anyone who runs a business, anyone who has a big family, anyone. There has to be a time where people can voice their opinions about things. Now, maybe kids with their parents may be a little bit more muted, okay? But here you have a Sayyidina Umar telling them, speak. Now the man gives a speech. He said, "Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, I represent the people. Okay, I represent everyone sitting here. We have 4 complaints against Sayyid ibn Amir. First, he doesn't come out of his house until the sun has risen. Okay? Like he doesn't come out of the house until Dhuhr. It's like, what is he doing? Sleeping until 11, 12 noon? Second complaint, he doesn't see anyone in the evening. Right? So once the sun goes down, he's gone. He leaves. So he's only up from like Dhuhr to Maghrib. He's with us. Okay. Third, there are 2 days a month in which he doesn't leave his house at all. Right? Every 2 weeks, he takes a day off. What kind of governor takes a day off? Fourth, every once in a while, every now and then, he faints. So we think he's sick. He's not able to rule. He's sick. He keeps fainting. All right, so these are the 4 things. The first one, he doesn't come out till Dhuhr. The second one, he leaves when the sun gets dark. Third thing is he spends 2 days, every 2 weeks he takes a day off. And number 4, he faints. So he's not healthy. He's not. We don't want a ruler who keeps fainting. We want someone who stays awake and is strong. The man sat down. Sayyidina Umar was shaking his head. And he said, "Oh Allah," he whispered, "Oh Allah, I know Saad is one of the best believers. He's one of the best worshippers of Allah. don't allow me to be disappointed with Saad. What does this mean? Sleeping in, sleeping early, taking 2 days off, being sick. What is all this? So he brings Saad in front of everyone. And he says, Saad, here are the complaints. Number one, you don't come out until half the day's over. What's the answer to this? He says, by Allah, I hate to explain this. I don't want to say what my reason is, but I have to. We have no servant in the house. I have to cook the bread and all the food for my wife and people to eat, okay, before I go out for the rest of the day. Then I don't have to worry about them if they go hungry. I have to do all the cooking, okay? I have to knead the bread, which actually goes to show you that he wasn't sort of slave driving his wife either. Okay, so he wasn't basically saying, you do all that, I have to go be the Amir, although many people do that. So he said, I cook the bread every day, I roll it, I put it in the oven, I cook it, I bake it, whatever bread is, cooked, baked, and then I leave. Okay, so I had to do that. I didn't want to say it, number one, because I don't want to speak about my family business, okay, and they don't understand this. They all have servants to do everything for them. Sayyidina Umar's face was relieved. He said, Alhamdulillah. He's not sleeping in, people. He's cooking food for his family so that he could spend the rest of the day out. Okay? All right, he says, all right, that's the first one. Let's talk about the second one. They say, as soon as the night comes, you leave. All right? You don't stay with them in the middle of the night. You don't stay after Isha around with the candle lights or the fireplace and talk and do whatever people do. Sayyid again shook his head. He said, oh, Amir al-Mu'mineen, I hate to speak about this, okay? But I'm now forced. You all forced me to speak about my own private business. He says, the fact is, all daylight hours is for the people. After I cook for my family, from the time I get out, I'm serving the interests of the city, of the people. When am I going to worship Allah? So the only time that I could read Quran is at nighttime. So I have to, as soon as Isha is done, I have to go straight home to recite Quran and to rectify things between me and my Lord. You can't just serve. Sayyidina Imam al-Haddad said, be careful from three people. Someone who only worships Allah and never helps people. And someone who always helps people and never worships Allah. Right? And someone who doesn't do either one. All three of these, there's something wrong with them. The right one, he worships Allah and he serves the people. So he's spiritual in himself. He focuses on his own dhikr and his own spirituality, and he focuses on helping people, both. Sayyidina Umar starts getting relieved. He said, Alhamdulillah, Allah hasn't let me down on two. Now the third one. The third one, Sayyidina Umar says, you don't show up for 2 days a month. That means you don't even go to the masjid? Like, how do you not even pray in the masjid? Okay. He says, for the third complaint, that they do not see me 2 days each month, it's true. It is because I do not have a servant and I only have one garment. I wash it in the morning, I let it go under the sun, and I don't have any other clothes to wear. So I have to wash my garment at least twice a month. And those 2 days, I have to wait at home until it dries. I only have one garment. At this point, the people of Hims, their faces are like this. They're like, what did we do? I mean, how did we give this noble man a headache? Okay? I like this. Now, the fourth one. The fourth one. He said, what is it this time? What is this one that you are not well, that you're sick? That you can't be a ruler and you keep fainting. You need to be have stamina. You need to be strong. You cannot be constantly fainting like this. Are you sick? This is the question. He says, again, this fourth one, it is true that I shake until I faint. And the answer is, I was not a Muslim in Mecca. He was a kafir, he was a mushrik. And Khubayb al-Ansari was brought, okay, and tied up, the Muslim was tied up in front of a pole. And they said to him, we're about to torture you. Would you rather be in your bed with your family and that Muhammad is in your place? He said, no, I wouldn't trade this for the Prophet ﷺ even getting a prick. And I sat, he said, he's talking about himself. He said, I wasn't a Muslim. I sat watching. And how did they torture Khubayb? They would take the boys and say, take target practice. Fire from far away, fire from close up, until we fired targets while Khubayb was tied up, his arms tied behind his back, he's wrapped up to a pole, and the kids firing arrows at Khubayb, and he's taking them and remembering Allah Ta'ala. And I sat there watching. I didn't do anything. I just watched. And he said, "Oh, Amir al-Mu'mineen," and he started to weep. When I think that I did that, I become disgusted with myself and unable to bear the sin that I carry on my back of watching a Muslim being tortured like that, even though he wasn't a Muslim, right, at the time. So he says, I spend that time, every time I remember that, I start shaking until I faint. So Sayyid ibn Amir had cleared his name. And Umar ibn Khattab, his eye filled up, and he said, praise be to Allah who didn't disappoint me in Sayyid. And he stood up and he hugged him. And all the people were just silent, completely quiet, because they were embarrassed that this man was hiding all these virtues. Well, Sayyid ibn Amir eventually continued to live this life. He continued to tell people to continue to rule the people of Hims, and the people of Hims eventually he grew on them. They loved him, and he became their Amir, all right, their ruler, and the people started to take him on as an example after that. So what looked like was a disaster really was the beginning of the birth of a relationship between Sayyid ibn Amir and the very rich people of Hims, and they were ruled by a man who lived such the life of an ascetic, and their kids learned from this, and many of the youth began to become his students, and many scholars ended up coming from the children of the children of those people to become students of Sayyid ibn Amir, and that's how Hims grew in Islam and became one of the most important Muslim cities. With that, we'll stop here. Anyone has any comments or questions, we could take them now. All right, first comment that's coming in. What is Sayyid ibn Amir's wife's name? Now, it was the custom of the Arabs that it wasn't really polite to give the name of your wife. So a lot of times they simply said the wife of Sayyid. They would simply say, or they don't even say that, they say the family of Sayyid. So one of the Arab customs is that it's just like today. Is it polite to say in the West the age of a woman? Right? It's not polite, right? It's just one of those things you just don't say. Likewise, they would not even say the name of a man's wife. They would simply say his wife or his family. Okay. All right, let's see what else you have. All right, looks like everyone's good to go. So let's move now to. We do. Every time I talk, the first moment I talk, some question pops up. Slight delay here. Can you tell us about his role in the Battle of Khaybar? He was a soldier. He was he became Muslim after the Battle of Khaybar, so he didn't even take part in the Battle of Khaybar, but he became Muslim afterwards, and he was one of the people of Mecca, but he didn't become Muslim with the other Sahaba at that time. He became Muslim afterwards, so he didn't partake in that battle, and he became Muslim afterwards, and he did very well in his Islam. And he was one of those who, even though he became Muslim later, Sayyidina Umar deemed him to be someone who was superior and someone who was better, more virtuous than than many others. So he was more comfortable with him, despite him becoming Muslim later on, which should give good cheer to people who enter into the scene later on and realize that you could do better, right, than people who are in way earlier. All right, let's go now to Qari Zahid bought us a beautiful Naats. All right. Actually, you know what? Let's say our dua first, or let's close with our dua first, and then we'll go to the Naats. So let's close with the dua, and then we'll go to our Naats or Qasida. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. تحسنت بذي العزة واعتصمت برب الملكوت وتوكلت على الحي الذي لا يموت. اللهم اصرف عنا الوباء بلطفك يا لطيف إنك على كل شيء قدير. تحصنت بذي العزة واعتصمت برب الملكوت وتوكلت على الحي الذي لا يموت. اللهم اصرف عنا الوباء بلطفك يا لطيف إنك على كل شيء قدير. تحصنت بذي العزة واعتصمت برب الملكوت وتوكلت على الحي الذي لا يموت. اللهم اصرف عنا الوباء بلطفك يا لطيف إنك على كل شيء قدير. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. الصبح بدا من طلعته والليل دجى من وفرته. الله سعت الشجر نطق الحجر شق القمر بإشارته. الله 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 كنز الكرم مولى النعم هادي الأمم لشريعته الله الله أزكى الناس على الحسب كل العرب في خدمته الله فمحمدنا سيدنا فالعز لنا لإنجابته الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم.